Barcelona, as you probably know, is built on 7 hills. Just like Rome and a long list of other cities, it has 7 hills within the urban area. Unless you count Montjuic, in which case it's 8, or Tibidabo, which would be 9. But why would you count that? That's all the way up in Collserola, technically within Barcelona. But it seems more like the country than the city proper. So, 7. That is the number of hills upon which Barcelona was built. And in fact, I recently found out that energetic hikers can connect all 7 hills in one route, a route which can be done in half a day or less. And so, waking up early one morning and kissing my sleeping wife Morena goodbye, I catch the metro towards the northwest and the, for me, unexplored areas on the Montaña side of town. It's time to climb Barcelona's 7 hills. Hey everybody, it's Daniel. Welcome back to Spain to Go, the best podcast in the entire multiverse for all things Spain. This is episode 88 about Barcelona's 7 hills. We'll actually be talking a little bit more about the multiverse than we normally do. That's later on. First, a shout out this week to Anna. Anna, who read my article about the tax inspection and wrote to me to say that it really calmed her down. I got tax inspected, I don't know, a year or two ago. It's episode 57 if you're here on the podcast. If you're not here on the podcast, I don't know what we're talking about. Anyway, episode 57 is about my tax inspection. A tax inspection is not quite as scary as it sounds. Mine was resolved for a couple €100. I had to send some, emails to my accountant. My accountant sent some letters back and forth to the people at Hacienda, and it was taken care of. No problem. So, thank you, Anna, for writing. I hope your tax inspection goes well, and I'm glad my article about it helped you to face the situation with some poise. Anyway, about those 7 hills, let's talk about walking in No Barris. The first hill of the 7 is Turó de la Peira in the No Barris neighborhood. Turó being the Catalan word for hill, and No Barris meaning nueve barrios, that is 9 neighborhoods. These days, there are actually 13 neighborhoods making up the district of No Barris. That's one of Barcelona's 10 districts according to the current city plan. I talked a little bit about that a couple of episodes ago in my episode on Poblano, the districts and the neighborhoods. Anyway, I've seen census data that says there are a lot of people from Ecuador and Honduras who live up here in No Barris. Rent prices seem cheap. Otherwise, this area hasn't made much of an impression on me. Mostly I've just biked through it on my way somewhere else. Turó de la Peira is small and there's a large metal cross on top. Also on top, a couple making out and a few younger guys who look like they've been up all night drinking. I stand for a few minutes in the morning breeze, but I've got a lot more climbing to do today. This is just one Turó out of 7. Onward! Walking down the other side of the hill, I'm soon at Plaza Bacardí. I consult my watch. I've been walking for about 20 minutes. Seems like a good time for some coffee. Bacardí might be the most famous Catalan surname in history. This plaza is named after the owner of the land around it back in the late 19th century. A lot of places around town actually are named after long-dead landowners. Bacardí just named the streets around his house after members of his family. I can't find any evidence that Alexandre de Bacardí y de Janer is related to Facund Bacardí y Massó, the founder of Bacardi rum, who moved from Sitges, about 35 kilometers down the coast from Barcelona, to Cuba in 1828. But I guess it's possible. Facund Bacardí y Massó, in any case, emigrated to Cuba and made the surname into a global brand. Despite supporting both Cuban independence and the Revolution of 1959, the Bacardi family and their company were exiled from Cuba in 1960. The Cuban government banned private property and confiscated everyone's bank account, is my understanding. Today, Facundo El Bacardi, the great-grandson of the original, is still chairman of the board of Bacardi Limited, which is now based in Bermuda. Other famous Catalans include the surrealist Salvador Dalí, Pep Guardiola, who's somehow involved in football, I believe, and Rosalia, the moto mami herself, whose last name is Vila. There are more, but I doubt they're very famous outside of Spain. There's Joan Miró, the painter, Pau Casals, the cellist, somebody who plays a cello, and Ferran Adrià, the chef who was deconstructing real food into, dollops of flavored foam or whatever several years ago. I think he closed his restaurant, but he's still a famous name around here. Anyway, like I said, I don't think any of these people are super famous outside Spain. Back on Plaza Bacardi, I sit on the terraza and order some coffee. 9 old bald guys are having cava for breakfast next to me. I hope I have that many friends when I'm in my 70s. The second hill is Turó de la Rovira. At 262 meters above sea level, it's still small and not a hard climb. You can see the whole city from the top, the towers and cranes of Sagrada Familia, the pickle-shaped Torre Glorias, and all the apartment blocks in between. Walking on, I come to the Carmel bunkers. These were the site of some anti-aircraft guns active during the Spanish Civil War, when fascist planes were bombing Barcelona. The bunkers have recently been a source of controversy around town as part of the never-ending debate over mass tourism. Having become a popular spot to watch the sunset, they were attracting enough people that the neighbors started to complain. City Hall finally responded by fencing off the area and closing it every evening, but nothing's stopping the tourists from gathering on the part of the hill outside the fence. The neighbors now say there are more people than ever, having a sort of open-air picnic and enjoying the views every evening. A sign explains some of the area's history. After the war, the artillery command post was torn down, and the materials were used in the construction of a shanty town which occupied the area until the era of the '92 Olympics, when Barcelona received its great urban facelift. In other words, gentrification didn't start yesterday. It's been around for a long time. Longer, in fact, than many of its critics have been alive. It's early enough that there are only a few people at the bunkers, and I've never been here in the evening, so I don't know. It might get pretty wild later on. A bit further along is Parc Güell. I've been trying to ask people for help with my Catalan pronunciation, people who speak Catalan, but as usual, I apologize. It's my fault. Parc Güell is spelled G-U with 2 points over it, E-L-L. It might be more like Güell than Güell. Either way, Parc Güell is one of the most famous tourist attractions in Barcelona, designed like the Sagrada Familia Basilica by that most famous of Catalan architects, Antoni Gaudí. Gaudí was not super famous during his lifetime. He kind of gained reputation afterwards. There are several Gaudí buildings around Barcelona and a few more around the north of Spain, I believe. Anyway, Parc Güell is famous for its tile mosaics and also used to be open to the public, but now costs money to get in, although Barcelona locals can sign up for a program offering free entry to the park and also a series of other museums and monuments. It's called Gaudir Más, which means enjoy more. Take a stab at spelling Gaudir Más if you want. It's on Google, you can find it. And if you're officially registered as a Barcelona resident, you can get into some places for free or with a discount. The crossing of the big street before Turó de Carmel has cafes catering to both locals and tourists, and a lot of bus activity. When I wrote about the bus that was deleted from Google Maps after being overrun with tourists, it was supposedly in this area somewhere. That's an episode called Barcelona's Disappearing Bus Route. It is episode 71. The trail up the hill isn't marked or in any way obvious. I'm just following a Wikiloc route here, past the church that gives the hill its name. The church, the hill, Turó de Carmel, and the El Carmel neighborhood around it, as well as all the women you know named Carmen, are named after Mount Carmel in northern Israel, where the Virgin Mary appeared in the 13th century. Our Lady of Mount Carmel is now the patron of fishermen and sailors, celebrated in many coastal towns on July 16th. Turó de Carmel, in any case, is just a few meters higher than the last hill, and there are a few people up here walking very loud, energetic dogs, as well as a skinny guy with a man bun carrying a baby in a sling. Next up is El Coll, a hill that was once a quarry supplying Barcelona with stone. On the way to the top, there's an old house with a large jasmine plant spilling over the fence. It smells amazing. The guy with the man bun and the baby is here too, although he must have come up some other way. I check out the view from the hilltop. It looks like there's an open-air wading pool down in the old quarry part of the hill. According to the Consorcio de Turismo de Barcelona, the jewel of the park is Eduardo Chillida's claw-shaped sculpture In Praise of Water, a 50-ton piece of concrete suspended over a reflecting pool. You can Google that if you want. In Praise of Water. I'm more familiar with Chillida's claw-shaped Peine del Viento at the edge of San Sebastian in the Basque country. Those are impressive because of the scenery. They're at the end of the beach where the waves beat against the rocks, and it's got some ambience. I'd probably completely miss the claw-shaped piece of concrete here if I hadn't read about it. The touristy part of Barcelona ended around Park Güell and the bunkers. I've never seen or heard of these neighborhoods before. In fact, I'm tempted to say that Barcelona's reputation as a tourist capital is mostly limited to 4 or 5 neighborhoods in total, plus the beach. There's a whole lot of city out here where it's just normal people living their lives, far from any famous examples of modernist architecture. Down the hill, there's a large viaduct and a metro stop called Valcarca. Nearby, a Russian Orthodox church. I've never been here, and I've never heard of these neighborhoods at all. In 6 years of life in Barcelona, nobody's ever told me that they live in Valcarca y els Penitents, or even that they once had lunch here. It's like discovering a whole new city. Turó de Putxet has a little calisthenics park on top where a middle-aged couple are doing dead hangs, and a girl in a sports bra is doing step-ups. When the middle-aged couple leaves, I decide to do some dead hangs myself, counting slowly in my head to 20 as I grip the pull-up bar. I'm getting a bit tired here, but these hills are getting smaller. This one was barely a climb at all. Here's a street named after William Tell, and here's Carrer de la Gleba. Catalan street names are always something of a mystery, and there's nothing special about Gleba. Perhaps it would seem special if I knew what a gleba was. It might have some obvious Spanish translation. Should I learn Catalan? The rich tapestry of the urban experience could be further enriched by an understanding of street names. Ah yes, here's the Spanish translation. It's gleba with a B. All those previous glebas I said were spelt with a V in case you couldn't tell. They're pronounced the same in Spanish. In Catalan, probably also. Apparently una gleba, or una gleba, is a clod of dirt of the type produced by digging or plowing. It also referred to the land worked by a serf back in feudal days, although apparently the street is named after a town called La Gleba in the area around Vic. The Virgin of La Gleba, in fact, is the patroness of the Plana de Vic. That's the plain around Vic out on the Catalan Central Depression. If you're ever in Catalonia and you have a few extra days, maybe go spend a day in Bic. It's an interesting experience. Anyway, upon learning this information, I briefly feel dumber. Does every geographical feature out here have its own virgin? But then I feel smarter. This actually does give a certain depth to the experience of walking around. But wait, there's more. Because La Virgen de la Gleba was actually discovered by an ox under a clod of dirt. And for some reason, she was named after the clod. The town was named in turn after the Virgin, and the street, here in Barcelona, is named after the town. Maybe in a parallel universe somewhere, Our Lady of Mount Carmel is a minor regional virgin. Meanwhile, Our Lady of the Clod is being revered by Catholics everywhere. Nobody would be named Carmen in that universe, but every Spanish-speaking person would have an Aunt Gleva. You see where I'm going with this. In a world without Carmens, Tara Lee Patrick from Sharonville, Ohio, would have chosen the name Gleba Electra before first appearing in Playboy. Hipsters would be debating whether to spell Gleba with the traditional Catalan V or the more modern Spanish B. Also, in this parallel universe, a podcaster named Huxlu Leynad would soon be recording episode 88 of a podcast called Go to Spain. I don't know, maybe in Bermuda, where he's also the chairman of the board of a multinational company, rather than a ginger guy in cargo shorts and dusty black socks out climbing hills for fun. Maybe this is getting a bit too deep, actually. Okay, here's Carrer de Balmes, named after the Catalan philosopher and theologian Jaime Balmes. Let's not go down the rabbit hole on that one. It's Balmes y punto. It's also one of 3 places on this whole walk I've actually been before. I've walked through here maybe twice. People sometimes mention going to a cinema on Balmes to see films in original version if you're into that kind of thing. A bit later, I'm on Hill 6. Turó de Monteros has 2 benches at the top and a little fenced-in area for dogs. This is not a big hill. Just to give you an idea, the Wikipedia page mentions the ping-pong tables located in the park as an attraction. And finally, Plaza de Castelló is barely a hill at all. It's an intersection with a church, a health center, a high school, and an old folks' home. I wouldn't notice the incline at all if my hiking app weren't insisting on it. From there, it's just a short hop down to Via Augusta, the old Roman road that once connected the north of Spain with Cádiz. According to the GPS route, the whole walk was exactly 12 kilometers, completed in 2 hours 42 minutes of moving time. I didn't get sweaty and I barely got tired. All in all, it was a great experience, showing me sides of Barcelona I've never seen before. Recently, as part of my search for places to go walking, I found that a Catalan hiking federation has made a list of 100 peaks. The iconic 100 Cims of Catalonia can be climbed, and some are barely more than a short walk uphill. Some of the peaks look pretty difficult up there in the Pyrenees, so maybe they're not for everyone. But the list is there. And now I know about the 100 Cims, I'm planning on climbing some of them. In fact, I've already started. Some are very close to home, like in the Collserola Park just outside town. I've done the one called Sant Pere Martir and the one called Puig Castellar out in Santa Coloma. And technically I did Tibidabo several years ago as well. Here in Barcelona, actually, Turó de Carmel is not one of the 100 essential peaks, but it does make the Hiking Federation's longer list of other peaks which are also sort of important. The 7 Hills route I did isn't marked in any way, but each hill is climbable on its own, and it's just a matter of getting from one to the other. Also, like I said, calling them all hills is being a bit generous. You can do the whole thing in a morning or an afternoon. That's about all I've got for today. Next up, some thoughts about my 20th anniversary of living in Spain. That will hopefully be the next episode here, and hopefully it will be out in about a week. I haven't technically started writing this, but, we'll make it work one way or another. I hope you have a great day wherever you are in the world. Thank you for listening. If you're on Wikiloc and you want to follow me and see the routes that I walk, you could check out my Wikiloc page. My name over there is Rockfellow, which is actually sort of a long story. I'll get into it another time. If you have no idea what Wikiloc is, don't worry about it. It's a GPS app for hiking or walking in the city if you want. While we're here, let me mention my donate page, expatmadrid.com/donate. You could go over there to expatmadrid.com/donate. You could donate 10 euros, 20 euros, 50 euros, 100 euros, whatever you want, really. Any number is fine. It all helps. I do this for free because I enjoy talking about Spain. I enjoy writing. This is not a serious business and I don't have anything to sell you really, so just head over to expatmadrid.com/donate if you would like to support the cause. You could also go over to Learn Spanish with Daniel on YouTube. Learn Spanish with Daniel is exactly what it sounds like. I've got a bunch of videos up there to help you learn some Spanish. I'm Daniel. That's the logic. Anyway, I've been living in Spain, like I said, for 20 years. I know a lot of Spanish, and I'm teaching some over there. It's not exactly for beginners. It's more for people who know a little bit. Recently, I talked about the truth about Spanish verbs, like why it's so complicated to teach Spanish verbs. So check that out if you would like. I can hear that my neighbors are back to drilling upstairs. I don't know what they're doing. They're drilling and they're hammering. They're hammering and they're drilling. So since that has started again, I'm going to wrap this up right here, right now. Thank you for listening. We'll be back soon. Like the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, give a review to the podcast if you're on a platform that allows you to do that. On Apple, you can give a 5-star review and actually write something. On Spotify, I believe you can just give some stars. Other platforms, I have no idea. Anyway, thank you for listening. I hope you have a great day, and hasta la próxima. Bye.